Hi friends, in our time together today, I want to talk about the breath requirements of the 6 low D whistles that I have purchased for under $100. They are the Goldfinch Low D, the Kerry Low D, Kerry Optima Low D, the Mountain Made Low D, the Tony Dixon single piece polymer Low D, and the Metcalf Standard Low D. I'll put like a thing on the screen there so that you could see that. First, I want to say something about breath requirements. When you're playing a whistle, there's this spot you've got to hit for the manufacturer. You don't want the air to just flow out of the tube with no resistance, because if you do that, the tone's gonna stink. You don't want so much back pressure, as it were, that you're gonna have to fight to play the thing. I hear some people, some manufacturers describe their whistle as you're gonna have to really learn the upper part of the second octave. But then you hear people playing that whistle, and once they learn it, it's just phenomenal. The low octave, the high octave are on almost every whistle, different breath requirements. Whew. So it's really hard to say. Tell me about the breath requirements of a whistle, but a number of you have wanted to know this. So I'm going to give it a shot. Here's what I've done. I ran 7 tests on each of these 6 whistles. I also included my Howard and my MK Pro. But they're not, I'll tell you what the scoring is with them, because that's really going to be interesting. But I'm going to tell you what the scoring is primarily without them. So what I did was I ran 7 tests. And at each test, I rewarded point values from either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And at the end of the day, I added it all up, and whoever got the lowest score won. Now, that's a number of breath requirement tests. But if like 2 whistles were tied for something, like let's say 2 whistles, like I played to see how long I could play something, and the top whistle I could play for 27 seconds, and then I could play the other 2 for 23. Well, the points were 1, 2, 2, and then the 4th one would have got 4. So anyway, here are the tests I ran. I'm going to grab the Kerry D, just because it was on the left. I played a low D. And I just kept playing, and I had set a timer, and what I did was I set the timer to run. When it hit 10 seconds, I started playing. Took a good breath and started playing. And then I played until I ran out of air. And I marked that down. Then I went to the next whistle. After regaining my breath, did the same thing. Then I did it again in reverse order, making sure that I balanced my results out, and the results were very similar. Then the second test, and the next one here in line, is the Kerry Optima. I played the second octave D, doing the exact same thing. How long could I hold that note? Then, and here is the Goldfinch was next in line. Then I played the second octave G, because that requires a different level of pressure and focus. And so, how long can I sustain that note? And then I awarded points to each whistle based on how long I could play. And I did it more than twice. I actually did it probably 4 times per whistle, because I didn't want to skew the results. I didn't want, I've got favorite whistles out of this. And I didn't want my favorites to skew what I was doing. Then I went and played Carrickfergus. I went to the second part of Carrickfergus and I started playing, and I played as far as I could. And I've got Nick Metcalf's Standard Low D. And I played. The goal was, how far can I play? And I wrote down the number of measures. And if I stopped in the middle of the measure, and then I counted that as and a half. Okay, and I'm doing all of these things at least 3 times. So I've been at this for a few days to get it right and to make sure I had adequate breath in between. The next thing I did was the A part of A Fig for a Kiss. I tried to see if I could play all 8 measures of the A part without taking a breath. The Tony Dixon whistle. So I did that. Then the next thing I did was I played the South Wind starting on the second part, and the goal was, how far could I go in doing that? And so I would start off, and this is the Mountain Maid. I started off after the second ending of the first part. So I ran that. How far could I go in that second part? I did that a few times for each whistle. And finally, I played I Sing of That Night in Bethlehem, and we're back at the beginning of my list, and I started playing it. And I tried to play it at a very consistent pace, consistent pressure, and the goal here was, how many breaths do I need to take while playing it? And I did each of these a few times. I know, crazy. I did it on my Howard and my MK Pro as well, because they're much more expensive whistles and they are reportedly higher quality. And there's a reason for my doing that. And the reason is, just because something is an easy blower doesn't mean it's inexpensive. And just because something's harder to blow doesn't mean it's expensive or better or more expressive. I want to come back to the point of choose a whistle you love on quality and get used to the breath pressure that you're going to have to learn to play with. Although, if you hear somebody say, this whistle will never play that second octave A, B, C, or D, but who does that anyway? I do that. So I want a whistle that'll play clean notes from the bottom all the way up to that third octave D. That's what I want. And I want my whistles to do that. So anyway, here are the results. Of the 6 Low D whistles for $100 or less, the Goldfinch got the lowest score. The Goldfinch and the Nick Metcalf Standard Low D, they both got the same score on ease of breath requirements. That's only one factor in making a decision as to whether you like a whistle, but these guys tied for the top. Then the Tony Dixon came in next for the score on the breath requirements. Then the Kerry D followed very, very, very closely by the Kerry Optima. And then the Mountain Maid came in at 6th place. Pretty nice. Now you think, oh, that's great. That's an easy decision. Think about this. Remember I said I included my Howard and my MK Pro. If you put the Howard in the mix and the MK Pro, you've got 8 whistles. with the Howard in the mix, okay, this is my primary low D whistle, so bear that in mind. That means that I am more familiar with how to play this whistle than any of these other, the other 7. And so the Howard came in first place. So you're okay to say, oh, of course it did. But I could by far play a note, sustain it longer. I could still be expressive. Ease of breath does not come at the cost of expressiveness. You've heard me play my Howard. I can play it expressively, and I can hold my breath while playing it longer than any other of these instruments. If you include the MK Pro, which is probably, I don't want to say the most expressive, but considered by most the most professional of these. How about that for a comment? And you can be very expressive on this one. If you include this in the list, it came in 1, 2, 3, 4. It tied for 5th place with the Kerry D. So that doesn't mean that the Kerry D and the MK Pro are the same whistle or are just as expressive. It means from a breath requirement standpoint, those two lined up. So, my friends, you asked for that information. I hope that helps. And I know I have hedged my bets in this conversation, and that is intentional because I think it's important to think about breath requirements, but I think it's also important to make sure you're buying tone quality at the top of the list. Yeah, money comes in. I know I've downplayed that. What surprised me, I was not surprised that the Goldfinch and the Metcalf were at the top of the 6. I was surprised that the Mountain Maid required more air. I expected the Mountain Maid to be very minimal on air, but I really had to put a lot of air in to the Mountain Maid. I was honestly surprised. My Howard was the easiest blower of the lot while still being expressive. That's a plug for my Howard, by the way, but I'll plug for all of these whistles. So I hope this is helpful, my friends. Until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy Low D whistling, and I seriously hope this helps you.